The whole comparing what was and wasn't there in the records is the red flag that Ian Whiffen should have been saying. As a forensic expert, he should be saying the fact that we can't correlate all this data means something is going on, right?
That somebody put hours and hours, approximately 16 hours of concerted effort towards aggressively targeting this very URL file, this search, the google.com house long to die in cold search.
God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Do you understand the significance? If Jen McCabe made that Google search, house long to die in the cold.
Okay, so watch here very carefully for a big gulp, a neck stretch, and then a deep breath when he registers the question.
Jen McCabe made that Google search, house long to die in the cold, at 2:27:40 a.m. instead of 6:23 a.m. Do you understand the significance of that?
Of course.
Really saying, Ian, is that Celebrate chose to make the tool better for users, and we weren't trying to be some part of the giant conspiracy of Karen Read.
Note that she is using the plural we here. And no, dear, don't flatter yourself. We are not saying that all of you were part of some big conspiracy.
What I'm saying very clearly to you is you have your company has a conflict of interest to help and back up your law enforcement partners.
You know, Mike might be onto something here. And just as a side note, look at the way this woman is looking at Ian Whiffen. You think she has a little crush on him?
You were a police officer for years before getting into the data forensic analysis of cell phones, correct?
Correct.
You were a response officer.
There's that pesky neck strain again. Probably I wouldn't play poker if I'm Ian Whiffen.
You were a response officer of the South Yorkshire Police from 2004 to 2009.
Correct.
You continued policing.
And again.
Continued policing with the Calgary Police, working patrol, correct?
Correct.
You work frequently with law enforcement.
I do.
Indeed, law enforcement is the predominance of your work, correct?
Probably about 80% of the work. Yes.
What percent?
About 80%.
80?
80.
Your work is used in investigations for law enforcement, correct?
Sometimes, yes.
In your area of work, you...
Do we think Ian Whiffen's a little uncomfortable here? What do you think?
Area of work, you use and apply various forensic methods that are extracted. That data is extracted from a cell phone, correct?
Correct.
And you have various forensic methods to analyze that data, correct?
Correct.
And that data that you analyze is often used by law enforcement in their investigations, right?
It can be, yes.
It can be, but it also is, from your experience, correct? It can be, but it also is, from your experience, correct?
Okay, my analysis is typically used in investigations, yes.
So it's typically, your analysis is typically used by law enforcement?
On the cases I work, yes.
Right. And you
don't want to hear the response to that one, do you? I don't think Ian Whiffen likes Bob Alessi very much.
Yes.
Right. And you know that is going to be the case oftentimes when you're doing your analysis, correct?
Correct. Yes, this is the PowerPoint presentation I created related to Jen's phone. Okay. The query revolved around a database called browserstate.db. Browserstate stores information about Safari internet browser and about the tabs that the user has either had open or has open. Fundamentally, in this presentation, I wanted to include information from iOS 14 and earlier. iOS 14 is not the version of iOS that was on Jen McCabe's phone.
So, Ian, seriously, I applaud you. One, for your patience and not flipping out. I know many times I wanted to flip out on your behalf.
Might there be a little naivete here? I wonder why you wouldn't flip out. Could that be because he knows that the charges waged are legitimate?
So I was emotionally in this with you, but you did a fantastic.
It's funny how she was going to flip out for Ian. Was Ian Whiffen on trial? Was Ian Whiffen looking at charges for a crime he didn't do?
The rest of his life in prison for murder?
All right. Why were you brought into this case?
So, as I showed, there's a field in this table called timestamp. It's actually called last viewed timestamp. I wanted to prove, or to demonstrate what that timestamp means, how that timestamp gets populated, and how it's relevant or irrelevant to a case.
Celebrate updated physical analyzer based upon your research and what you learned in that case, so that people who don't understand how to validate don't have time to validate, and for better lack of other terms, press buttons to get answers. The answer will be correct in their face going forward. Something I wanted to comment to some of the social media trolls who have zero digital forensics knowledge in their bodies, but think they know better.
I've done it the technical way, the non-technical way. I've used a device of the same era and the same version as Jen McCabe's phone.
Fundamentally, in this presentation, I wanted to include information from iOS 14 and earlier. iOS 14 is not the version of iOS that was on Jen McCabe's phone.
And I've proved it multiple times. So how can I be so sure that I'm right and Ian Whiffen's wrong? And the answer is simple. I write freaking SQL code for a living. I went to uni, I learned the SQL language, not with pretty lines and columns and buttons and things that makes life easier. I had to write this stuff on a black and white screen in DOS. And what's Ian Whiffen's background? Oh yeah, he used to be a cop. Give me a break. Trust me when I tell you SQL is far more complex than SQLite, as if you couldn't tell just by the freaking names. So what it records is far easier to work out than a full-blown SQL database.
Mr. Whiffen, in the slide before 22740, you mentioned that was the tab in question.
Yes.
Do the following pages that you show us in the PowerPoint follow that one specific tab?
Yes.
Thank you.
Should we count the number of lies this guy tells while he's on the stand? Because we now know that was a lie, right? In tab UUID CF0C FFF7 etc. from row 4026, which is distinctly different, Mr. Whiffen and Spanky Hank, to tab AE15 7AEA blah 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 from row 4028. The same tab, you say? That tab has a unique identifier, and that's what changes, so we know it's not the same tab. What has he proved? 1, it wasn't the same tab. He says it was the same tab, but we can see quite clearly from the data that it wasn't the same tab. 2, the search, house long, was sent and received and recorded in the databases. By his own testimony, the existence of IE equals UTF-8 and OE equals UTF-8 is proof that the search was submitted. I would add to that, it's actually proof that the server responded, because on submission, this is what it would look like without that extra string on the end. It's when the server responds that the extra string is attached. So even though he hasn't admitted it, that's what that entire URL tells us.
In order to confirm the accuracy of this search event as reported in Cellbrite's physical analyzer and consistently throughout multiple versions of Axiom, I then independently performed a low-level analysis of the artifact, which was located in the browser state DB write-ahead log. Write-ahead files are temporary in nature and are the location where data is written before commitments to the main database are made. Is it possible that whoever did the tampering didn't know about the write-ahead log and therefore didn't realize they would have also had to have deleted this search from the write-ahead log?
You can, however, choose specific history records in the iPhone to delete those. What that operation doesn't do, though, is wipe it from all of the databases, as if it never existed.
And is it possible that the reason why the search was in a deleted state is because what was actually captured by the WAL file was this user's attempt to delete the search from the interface itself? I used 3 additional forensic tools to conduct a low-level analysis of the artifact in question, including Belkasoft X, Sanderson Forensic Browser, and ArtX2, a research-based program created by the Commonwealth's expert Ian Whiffen, which only has approximately 600 users worldwide. All 3 of these programs show data consistent with the search for How Long to Die in Cold, with a last viewed time field of 22740 being found on record 4028. Remember that, 4028. All times listed have been converted to CanMA local time unless otherwise noted. Thus, I was able to independently verify using additional forensic tools that the last viewed time, date, and fact of the search, that WAL file, was accurate. It is also my opinion, based on a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, that the 2:27:40 a.m. search artifact for How Long to Die in Cold was deleted by either deliberate user interaction or manual post-imaging manipulation of the data by some unknown individual. Let's take a look at that, shall we?
And 3, he's proven that none of the deletions or data discrepancies can be done through the iPhone interface.
Well, as Aussie Insider and I discussed the other night, maybe not none.
You certainly can't change information stored in the Knowledge C database through the iPhone interface. That much is clear. You can, however, choose specific history records in the iPhone to delete those. What that operation doesn't do, though, is wipe it from all of the databases, as if it never existed. But he did prove that Jen McCabe didn't do this herself through her own interactions with the phone. So Whiffen changed his story between the 2 trials. So in the first trial, he said that he didn't hash verify what he was analyzing.
What does hash verify mean? We know that this is the way that these data analysts try to verify that the data wasn't tampered with. Let's see if Jessica Hyde can explain how to hash verify something. And maybe she'll give us some clues about who may have been meddling with the data.
Upon receiving the forensic image, the first thing I did was I did what's called a hash of the image. So a hash is an algorithmic representation of a file. So a forensic image, all the data from the phone, it comes in one file that can then be extracted and have the rest of the data. That singular file that's received, there's actually 3, but focusing on the one that has all of the data, that archive file, you can run what's called a hash algorithm against it. There's actually multiple hash algorithms, and I hashed it, and then I validated that hash to the document that was provided along with the image file that contained the hashes that were contained in. Those hash values matched. Now, just for clarity, if you change one bit in a file, it will not have the same hash. So the hash provides integrity, and having used both hashes, which are available in that report, and ran 2 different algorithms. They both matched. Additionally, I reviewed the PDF that was received for signs of alteration. The PDF that comes with a Gray Key report is not signed by Adobe Acrobat. However, I was able to take that PDF and then examine it just like I would a phone. So I'm using the same techniques on the phone. Using a tool called EXIF tool, I was able to learn a lot about the creation of that particular PDF. And what I was able to learn about it was that it was created by, it's labeled it as being produced by Grayshift using a particular code-based application to create the PDF called PYF PDF, standing for Python Framework PDF. It is on, it's a program that you can download, and developers who create tools like Magnet Forensics, who owns the Gray Key, utilize that script, which is why it says it's produced by it, to create the actual PDF. That's what the evidence there in the data tells me. It also contains a time of when that is created, and that time was February 2nd, 2022, at global UTC, that's the global constant time, think what's in the UK, at 22:49, which local time would be 5:49 p.m.
At some point, did any of the police officers ask if they could take your phone and copy everything on it?
Yes.
Did you have any hesitation about that?
Not so fast.
Were you cooperative?
Yes.
Why?
I wanted to help in any way I could.
We'll get back to this in just a bit.
And isn't it important for examiners, anybody in data forensics, to know whether or not the data they're looking at has a valid hash value?
It would depend, in my opinion, on the origin of the data.
Is Ian Whiffen being honest with us about this? Because that's not what Richard Green said. In fact, he said, as a forensic examiner, having received hundreds of image phones over the course of my decades-long career, this was unprecedented.
But you would agree that it's much better to have a valid hash value for data than not, correct?
I'd like to see the hash value match, yes.
You would like to see the hash value match,
Yes.
correct?
There's that pesky neck strain again. How weird. I have more than 25 years of experience as a computer network technician and 18 years of experience conducting electronic data analysis and investigations, including analyzing computer data, cell phone data, cloud data, digital camera and DVR data, metadata, media and audio and video analysis, and enhancement technology. I have conducted thousands of investigations involving computer and cell phone forensics, data recovery, computer networking and maintenance, and audio and video enhancement. My services have been retained by numerous attorneys across the country in both civil and criminal cases, offices of the public defender, and law enforcement agencies. I have been qualified as an expert in digital forensics in numerous state and federal courts throughout the nation, including California, Florida, Michigan, Kentucky, North Carolina, Ohio, Tennessee, and Massachusetts. USF, which is his company, was initially provided with a Cellbrite report prepared by Trooper Nicholas Garino with the Massachusetts State Police, which was labeled as an Apple iOS full system report, indicating a full file system extraction of an iPhone 11 belonging to Jennifer McCabe. In the initial report prepared by Trooper Garino, the 2:27 a.m. search for House Long to Die in Cold did not appear. Recognizing that this report was not the best evidence, I personally requested the image file for the phone in question, which I had reason to believe was produced using the Gray Key product based on the naming convention contained within the Cellbrite report. Number 10, I subsequently received a USB drive containing a forensic image of the iPhone 11. So the first thing he was sent said that it was a full file system extraction, but ultimately it's a report. It's a Cellbrite report, not the full extraction. So the first thing he gets is a Cellbrite report prepared by Nicholas Guarino, not the cell phone extraction. Okay, so then there's this. After requesting it, I subsequently received a USB drive containing a forensic image of the iPhone 11 described as J. McCabe, belonging to Jennifer McCabe, which was forensically imaged by the Massachusetts State Police using a tool known as Gray Key. The USB drive containing the forensic image was sent to USF by Assistant District Attorney Lally with the Norfolk County DA's office by way of Trooper Guarino with the Massachusetts State Police. Upon receipt, USB containing the image of Jennifer McCabe's cell phone was assigned an internal evidence number, which was evidence number 223983004. Notably, the USB drive containing the forensic image of Jennifer McCabe's cell phone failed to include the associated documentation containing the hash value, which is a well-known mechanism used to validate the data and ensure that it has not changed or otherwise been manipulated. After personally insisting that the Massachusetts State Police provide the hash value associated with this data, they eventually provided them with a PDF containing the purported hash value. And the value listed within the PDF matched the Gray Key image file of the cell phone in question. However, and remarkably, the associated documentation containing the hash value needed to validate the image was not provided with the initial USB drive containing the forensic image of Jennifer McCabe's cell phone. This was incredibly unusual. In all of my years working as a forensic examiner, this is the first time I have ever received a Gray Key forensic image of a phone without the corresponding hash value. After personally insisting that the Massachusetts State Police provide the hash value associated with this data, USF was eventually provided with a PDF containing the purported hash value, and the value listed within the PDF matched the Gray Key image file on the cell phone. However, as Mr. Whiffen acknowledges in his report, the Cellbrite program cannot validate the data because the value is unsigned. In other words, the Gray Key image of Jennifer McCabe's cell phone could have been manipulated, then rehashed after the manipulation, with the PDF then being modified to show the newer post-manipulation hash value. In other words, the Gray Key image of Jennifer McCabe's cell phone could have been manipulated, then rehashed after the manipulation, with the PDF then being modified to show the newer post-manipulation hash value. Typically, forensic examiners are provided with the raw image file and the associated hash value documentation together. After validating the hash value, I would then accept that the data had not been manipulated. Here, however, the hash documentation was not provided with the raw image of the cell phone. Instead, it was withheld from the defense. As a forensic examiner, having received hundreds of imaged phones over the course of my decades-long career, this was unprecedented. They gave him a full image file, but it still was a PDF of a hash value. It wasn't what you're talking about. Like, they sent it separate.
They did, yeah. Yeah, so then you also had Hyde get up on the stand and say, well, she actually did get the P list, the key, and the zip all together, and that she did actually do that full extraction. But what she testified to was that she couldn't be sure that before she got that extraction, before someone wrapped it up into that extraction, that someone hadn't tampered with it.
Right. That was my question. Could you essentially give it a new hash value, repackage it, and then it looks like it's not been tampered with because I just repackaged it and then gave it a new number?
Right. So when it's sent to the defense, and this is the hash value, it has to stay at that hash value, or else you're proving that it was tampered with, right? So it depends on when the defense was sent that hash value. We know that they weren't sent all of this information until the very last minute. Like the Commonwealth held off with a lot of information till the very last minute. So we know that the point that Whiffen and Hyde got it probably did match, and that there probably wasn't any reason to eyebrow. That if they'd have done this way back at the start, like right back when discovery should have been handed over in the first deadlines that the judge gave them before the first trial, then we would have been able to say, okay, the hash values don't match with what you're showing us now in trial 2.0. So it depends on the timing of it. So
yeah. Right. And that could also be part of why they kept pushing it further and further, right? They kept delaying turning it over.
So they could keep manipulating the database according to whatever it was that Richard Green kept finding.
And display or monotonic clock, correct?
Again, that's not, can't be used for that.
Now, you're aware that Jennifer McCabe signed a consent form on February 2nd of 2022 for her cell phone to be imaged? Now, you're aware that Jennifer McCabe signed a consent form on February 2nd of 2022 for her cell phone to be imaged?
Yes.
And a full forensic extraction was performed on that phone sometime shortly after February 2nd of 2022?
I don't remember the exact date. I didn't download her phone.
This investigation, we're involved in the extraction of data or the examination of extracted data from any particular phone?
Yes, I did John O'Keefe's phone, Karen Reed's phone, and we had two witnesses' phones, but I don't remember doing the extractions themselves. We had two witnesses' phones, but I don't remember doing the extractions themselves.
Well, Nicky boy, if you didn't do the extractions, then who did?
Before we get into that, if I could ask you some questions in regard to Ms. McCabe's phone extraction. Ms. McCabe's phone extraction. You had occasion to review that, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, with regard to the phone calls or the contacts that Mr. Green indicated were user deleted or deleted by the user, what, if any, information did you look in regard to that? What, if any, did you ascertain in regard to that?
Actually, it seems like we might have a pretty good idea of what happened here. But let's go back a minute.
Those calls, while they do show marked as deleted, again, they come from the wall file and they're also located in two other parts of the database. Again, as a user of an iPhone, you can't go in and just delete these files. They're handled by the operating system. It's impossible.
Well, that's not entirely true, is it, Nicky? It's impossible for the user through their cell phone to delete things from the operating system, but not from the extraction report, right, Nick?
This shows progressive manipulation. The first attempts keep it at position 10, the middle attempts all at 6, burying it deeper, and the final attempts position 0, trying to hide it completely. These 16 records prove that there was 3 prolonged attacks on History DB, plist, and Browser State DB. Someone knew exactly which record to target, and they targeted it repeatedly. They came back to the same location. The SALT staying consistently at 4044 proves a single continuous tampering session, all 16 attempts before any checkpoint, extended access to the device, and not interrupted by system processes or restarts. So altogether, they prove a deliberate focused attack on this specific record, sustained effort over an extended period of time with database access, knowledge of which exact database page contained the incriminating data, and possession of the device or access to tools for database editing.
Could there have been somebody in the house on Fairview Road on the night in question who had that skill set? And from what you could see, right? So from what you could see and what Ian Whiffen told us through his assessment of when these timestamps were happening, right? He determines that January 31st was the earliest time that somebody was in there.
And now, between him and Jessica Hyde, they're both going to prove when these database manipulations were done.
We don't have information that tells us at what time the record's deleted, but we're able to infer what time that record was deleted based on other records in this frame. So, for example, we know that at the time that record 4029 was deleted, record 4031 already existed. Record 4031 has a timestamp of 6:29 on the 31st of January. Therefore, we can summarize that record 4029 had to be deleted at some point after 6:29 on the 31st of January.
Interesting. Looks like someone's playing with the records the day before Karen gets arrested.
We see again record 4030 is deleted on frame 468. Again, we can look at what record was the most recently created on that frame at the point that that record was deleted. And that gives us information that suggests record 4030 had to have been deleted at some point after 8:35 on the 31st of January.
There shouldn't be any deleted Google searches, right? Her husband, Matt McCabe, is in IT. He might know how to do it. I don't know.
By the time the record related to Hoss Long Died in the Cold is deleted, record 4037 already exists. Record 4037 was created after 2207 on the 31st of January. Therefore, we know that the Hoss Long to Die in the Cold record was deleted at some point after 10 p.m. on the 31st of January.
I want to go back to the PowerPoint because it says here the earliest possible deletion date for all of these tabs would be January 31st of 2022. Does anybody remember, class, the day that Jennifer McCabe willingly gave up her phone to MSP?
I am making myself very small here because I am only showing you this so that you can see Jennifer McCabe's reaction to this line of questioning. In this line of questioning, it's not what she says that's problematic. It's how she is behaving. It's a little creepy.
At some point, did any of the police officers ask if they could take your phone and copy everything on it?
Yes.
Did you have any?
At some point, did the police ask if they could take your phone and copy everything on it?
I don't remember the exact date. I didn't download her phone.
I did have the opportunity to look at the data that was extracted from that device. I never saw the device itself.
Yes, I did. John O'Keefe's phone, Karen Reed's phone, and we had two witnesses' phones, but I don't remember doing the extractions themselves.
Hesitation about that?
Now watch. So Jennifer McCabe hears Alan Jackson objecting, and her face completely changes. Like all of a sudden, she looks like she's seen a ghost, and she has a visceral reaction. But at the same time, she's trying to continue to put on the I'm just a normal mom act. And so you can see that in her mind, she's vacillating between trying to figure out whether or not Alan Jackson knows that she did not turn over her cell phone and is objecting for that reason, or if he doesn't know. So watch closely.
Were you cooperative?
Yes.
Why?
I wanted to help in any way I could.
May I vote?
Yes.
Watch her eyes. Watch her eyes. Look at that. Did you see it? It's like she's looking because she wants to see something. I'm guessing in that moment she's either tracking Alan Jackson to see whether or not he's going to object or call her out on this, or she's looking to her sister or somebody who's seated in the gallery. But she's looking with very clear intent for a very specific reason. And then as Brennan walks back over to her, she kind of tilts her head and then like goes back into the normal mom performance face. It is eerie to watch. And it is not easy to have been in Jennifer McCabe's psyche for the last 3 days straight because something is very wrong here. Okay? Something is very, very wrong here. Did you see it? I'm going to let you watch it one more time all the way through. You see the face? This face, for the first time, I realized how afraid Jennifer McCabe is of Alan Jackson. They did not see Alan Jackson coming.
Think about it. Karen Reid said to the media she had no idea these people were scheming until she started getting Discovery. So none of this was even prompted by accusations that they might be involved. And looking at the P-list file, she's Googling herself and John O'Keefe long before any accusations that they were involved.
And they are scared to death of him. Scared to death. Scared to death of him, scared to death of what he knows. And what could he be about to slam me with? Watch it again. I'm not even going to slow it down because you can see it in real time. I mean, it's almost more disturbing in real time because you can really see how quickly this happens.
Yes.
Why?
I wanted to help in any way I could.
May I vote?
Watch, watch. And remember, when we lick our lips, what do we do that? Well, our mucous membranes are drying up. My guess is she's starting to get dry mouth. And you will note that the entire time that she is under cross-examination, that's how she is. Now, I'm not going to ding her too much for that because cross-examination is scary. And Alan Jackson is a freaking boss. Like, I would not want to be on the other side of Alan Jackson. But I am telling you that this woman is performing and hiding something.
Paper, do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
That's my signature.
You know what that document is?
Yes, it's the consent form that I signed from my phone.
It's the consent form that she signed for her phone. For her extraction.
This is an exhibit.
Watch her. So Alan Jackson is calling for a sidebar. It's hard to hear. And it is flipping this woman out. Why, Jennifer? Why are you so afraid of Alan Jackson? Is it because you didn't turn over your cell phone? That you turned over a doctored extraction? And you're worried that maybe he knows and that's why he's objecting and that's why he wants a sidebar? Look at her eyes. Look at her tracking him. This is wild. It's absolutely wild. And I wonder when we get these sidebars, you guys remember this moment. Remember it. Because there is a sidebar here. And it may tell us whether or not the defense team knew that Jen McCabe only turned over her extraction. And if that's the case, that means the judge wouldn't allow the defense to bring it forward. I'm not saying that's a fact. I'm just stating the possibility. Because I cannot believe the defense team never figured this out. I don't believe that. They must know that she never handed over her phone. Now, watch her.
This is an exhibit.
Look.
I've no objection to the identification of it.
Okay, I'll see you.
Look at her. Now she's deadpan. Now she's trying to go back to the performance. I hope she was taking benzodiazepines before this because it's lucky. She's lucky it didn't give her a freaking heart attack. I'm not even kidding. This was no freaking joke. But what about Carrie Roberts? Because she had her phone extraction turned over with Jennifer's, obviously, because neither of their phones were extracted by the Massachusetts State Police.
On February 1st, or whatever day it was, the subsequent time that you were interviewed just a few days later, you did then, for the first time, describe the taillight that you saw, correct?
I don't know.
Now, as much as I'd like to talk about the taillight right now, we're not watching this for that reason. I promise we'll come back to the taillight, but not today.
Does that refresh your recollection that you were interviewed on February 1st, 2022 by a trooper by the name of Connor Keefe and a trooper by the name of Kathleen Prince?
Yes. Did Connor Keefe write that report?
I'm sorry?
Did Connor Keefe write that report?
Trooper Kathleen Prince wrote the report.
Okay.
Does that matter? No?
Nope.
Okay.
What do you think that might have been about, huh? I can promise you, she asked for a reason.
Okay, where were you at that next interview?
I think I was at Jen's house. We were making a timeline together when 2 law enforcement showed up to question her. But I happened to be there, so they took us in separate rooms and questioned both of us.
Were you sober at that point?
Yes.
And what was your mental state then?
Still, we hadn't even had a funeral.
Wasn't it the same day that Karen was arraigned on February 2nd of 2022?
We know that somebody started in the evening on the 31st to work through Jennifer McCabe's cell extraction changes. Carrie Roberts shows up to work on the timeline on the next day, February 1st. Okay? It was a Tuesday, according to Jennifer McCabe. They sat down and they did a timeline, which ultimately Alan Jackson proves completely altered Carrie Roberts' memory, and it absolutely would. So that makes sense. And if Jennifer McCabe did that on purpose, she's a lot smarter than I give her credit for. So, but here's the thing. Do you think while they were doing the timeline, it's possible that Matt took Carrie's phone and said, "Oh, I'll do your extraction too. This way, you don't have to actually turn the phone over to the Massachusetts State Police. You can just turn over the extraction like my wife." Why turn over our phones when we can just turn over the extraction? From there, the Massachusetts State Police could have done exactly what Aussie Insider and I spoke about earlier. Right. That was my question. Could you essentially give it a new hash value, repackage it, and then it looks like it's not been tampered with because I just repackaged it and then gave it a new number?
Right. So when it's sent to the defense and this is the hash value, it has to stay at that hash value as you're proving that it was tampered with, right? So it depends on when the defense was sent that hash value. We know that they weren't sent all of this information until the very last minute, like the Commonwealth held off with a lot of information till the very last minute. So we know that the point that Whiffen and Hyde got it probably did match, and that there probably wasn't any reason for eyebrow. But if they'd have done this way back at the start, like right back when discovery should have been handed over in the first deadlines that the judge gave them before the first trial, then we would have been able to say, okay, the hash values don't match with what you're showing us now in trial 2.0. So it depends on the timing of it. So
the next day searches, the 623 and 624. So all along to this point, people have thought somebody had told her, okay, just Google it again the next morning, and then we'll say that that was the search at 220, whatever. But that's not what you've discovered.
No,
Am I right?
God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything.
Testified that. So, testified that. So,